Hello, welcome back to the channel. It is Dan Nocturne Knives coming at you today with a quick first impressions video of this knife, the Winter Blade Co. Factor. So this knife is coming in from the Apex Pass Around group. I've had it for about a week, a little bit over a week. Really enjoyed having some time with it, and I'm excited to share some thoughts about it. So with all that said, let's get into it. Start off with some specifications here. Looking at overall length, looking at just over 7 inches, maybe 7 1/16 or so, just right over this line. Blade length is coming in about 2 7/8 or so, just a bit under 3 inches, and cutting edge is right on 2.5 inches. I'll try to remember to put weight up on screen at this point as well. For the thickness on this handle, we're looking at 0.39, so just under 0.4 inches, nice and thin there. For the blade, we're looking at 0.12, 125 thousandths or so, and then behind the edge thickness is coming in around 14 thousandths. For the materials on this, you have blue anodized titanium here, carbon fiber on this side, mill-tie clip. You have green G10 insert here, and then this bar thing is also green G10. For the blade, you have M390, and this knife is made by the Chinese OEM Bestech. I think this is coming in at about $375. If that's incorrect, I'll post something on the screen. So now let's talk about the unique thing about this knife, and that is that it is magnetically driven. Everything that happens on this knife is based around magnets. The lock, the detent, all of it is magnet-based. Very, very interesting and unique. So the detent, let's try and get a view of that. See those round things in there? Those are the magnets keeping the blade closed. And then those little white posts, I'm pretty sure that prevents the blade from contacting the magnets. I believe what that's for, and I'm guessing that's made of some sort of plastic or polymer. So there are the magnets to keep it closed. It opens up, and take a look in there. You can see this move into place, and that's a magnet that moves that part. Not sure exactly what we're going to call that, but it moves it into a gap on the back of the blade. Let's take a look at that. Here's that lock interface right here. And there's a look inside. It stops up here. Yeah, very interesting. So all the detent and the lock is done completely magnetically. No springs, no balls, nothing like that. And it's super cool. You also have this tab here that you can push on, kind of reminiscent of a push-button style flipper, although definitely different in its mechanics. Screws here are T6, and then you have a big flat head for the pivot. And this side is captured. And the pocket clip is reversible left to right. And I think it looks better on this side because the blue ano matches the blue titanium on this side, and then you just get one clean carbon fiber side. If you're left-handed, you can have that kind of more matchy experience, but if you're right-handed, you get the opposing. So now let's jump into some of my likes, neutrals, and dislikes for this knife. So starting off with the likes, I like the materials on this. Titanium, carbon fiber, you got some G10, that's okay, kind of whatever. And then M390 on the blade, all solid materials. These are all good to go. Titanium is nice and lightweight. Carbon fiber, super lightweight and rigid. Well done there. No issues on the materials. And M390, when done decently, is a solid steel. And Bestech doesn't do it too badly. They do a pretty decent job. About as good as any of the Chinese OEMs. My next like on this is going to be the blade. I like the blade shape, and I really, really like the grind. Sheep's foots like this are super nice for utility cuts. It's very easy to cut on a flat surface. You can see how you barely have to raise up, and you're engaging that tip. And then the grind on this is just wonderfully thin. There's a look at it. Really nice and thin. Very impressive. Coming in 14 thousandths behind the edge. Feels thin. this is going to breeze through just about whatever you want, and the blade stock is pretty thin at 1/8 of an inch. I'm impressed with all of that. I like the blade shape and love the grind on it. My next like is this big slot in the blade. I really, really appreciate that. Gives you a lot of flexibility and options, and you can kind of make the action however you want. So if I put my finger up here, the detent gets a little bit harder because I'm closer to the pivot. I have less leverage. If I move down here, I have a slightly softer detent, and it's just a different experience. And it's super easy. You can pretty much, wherever you grab this, you can find a space to engage on this nice long opening hole. So I appreciate that. It makes it very easy to engage with. My next like is the multiple deployment methods. My personal favorite is the middle finger flick with the slot, but you also have this little, I don't know, push button tab here made out of G10, and this basically just pushes the blade out right like that at this point right here. And it's pretty easy to operate. You just kind of pinch with your thumb right here, these fingers here, push, give it kind of a firm push, and it's pretty easy to get it to spring out. And that's a reasonably satisfying way to deploy it. I like that. I prefer the middle finger flick, but I don't mind the push on the G10 button there. And it's nice to have those options. And then you can also get it and do a thumb flick pretty easily. It's not ideal, but you can do it. And then if you wanted to, you could do a slow roll, no problem. And you could even do a Spidey drop like that, although it's not very satisfying. Now, my next like is the uniqueness of the design. I'm impressed by how unique this is. It really doesn't look like a knife. It's clearly set out with an intention. Brian Winters, the man behind Winter Blade Co., or Brian Winter, I can't remember if it has an S on it or not. Either way, he's clearly set out with a design intention for this, to make it look unique and be unique in the knife space, and I am impressed. I like what he's done here. He has accomplished his mission in that this does not look like a knife per se. You have not seen a knife that looks like this. I can pretty much guarantee it. And if you have, I mean, what knife is that? I would love to know, because I haven't seen it. But this looks very unique in the knife world, just all around. The lines, the styling here, even the mechanism especially is unique. But it's all kind of got this futuristic, modern, not knife look, where the handle is this weird kind of boxy shape and the blade has that odd shape, and even closed, it doesn't look like a knife. I'm not quite sure what it looks like. Maybe a car, Cybertruck vibes. Anyway, I'm impressed by how well this knife has accomplished its mission and how well Brian accomplished his design mission on this knife. And then my next like is the ease of deployment on this. It's so easy, and the ease of deployment and retraction of the blade is just effortless. To do the flick, put your middle finger here and you flick out, and it is absolutely reliable every time. I've never failed a middle finger flick on this. It's so absolutely easy and effortless because you put your finger anywhere on here and you flick it out, and it's going to open every single time. All the way at the bottom, it doesn't matter. It's incredibly easy. And then this lock is just amazingly easy to actuate. The pull on this is so easy and intuitive. It's just astounding. You can see how little force I'm having to put into that and how easy it is to disengage. It's just astoundingly easy to do that. I mean, I can do it just like that. Incredibly easy. Like that. Can do it there with my pointer finger wrapped around. Can disengage it just like that. It's super easy. Flick it with my ring finger. Disengage it with my middle finger. Let's get a pinky flick. And then, let's see, disengage it with my pinky. There you go. It's incredibly easy and intuitive to do. And equally easy if I switch to left hand. Super easy as well. I can easily get that with my pointer finger and disengage it. And the flick is just as easy because there's no lock bar or anything to be on. So yeah, it's just an absolutely effortless and very intuitive opening and closing on this. Pull back, any angle over vertical that you have this at, it's going to fall closed. Just like that. So easy and intuitive. And then my number one like on this is going to be the lock itself and the creativity and uniqueness in this locking mechanism and the detent mechanism and all the magnets this knife is utilizing for everything it does. That is my number one like. It's unique and it's new and it's super refreshing in the knife world to see a knife powered by magnets like this in the lock and in the detent, and then they all come together to make something that's this pleasant and fun to use. It's very impressive, and that's got to be my number one like, is how unique that is, and then also how well it works and how well it's executed in this knife. The magnets, they really do create a positive detent. I'll show you here. You can see how positive that is. It really is quite a strong and surprisingly snappy detent. It has a break. It's kind of reminiscent of a button lock detent in the way that it breaks. So if you've had like a Malibu flipper, a Protec Malibu, for example, it's somewhat reminiscent of that, but a harder detent. And then actually I do have one more like, and that's the sounds that this knife makes are just wonderful. I'll be quiet and let you listen to this. Do you hear that ring? It makes a ringing, tinging sound as it flips out. Hopefully you can hear that. It's like a chiming of a little bell or a little tuning fork. And then when you close this, it just makes a really satisfying kind of clack and thunk as it comes back into the handle. Hopefully you can hear that well, but the sounds on this are just wonderful. They're very nice. Now on to some neutrals. Okay, I have a few neutrals on this. So the first neutral is going to be the ergonomics. They're just okay. I can live with them. They're decent. They're passable. They work, but this is not an ergonomic masterpiece. It's no Spyderco. You can see your fingers kind of generally wrap around the handle here into this depression here, and your last finger goes on this raised portion like that. Pretty good. But you end up with some weird shapes. It's pretty wide. It's kind of thin. It's got this big gap here that, especially in, say, a hammer grip, your hand really kind of just sinks into. Feels empty back here. And then if you want to go, say, in a draw cut grip, now this finger is kind of wrapping over nothing. And yeah, it's just a little weird. It's a little bit funky. You can kind of choke up on the blade, but also it's not that comfortable and kind of not really designed for it. I'm not sure. Yeah, the ergonomics are just a little bit kind of confused on this, I would say. There really aren't ergonomics per se. It just kind of is a blocky handle that you can hold on to pretty easily, but it's not bad. You get here on a saber grip and you have decent control. It's decently comfortable. In a pinch grip, it's pretty comfortable here. It's pretty good like this, not amazing. So the ergonomics are just okay. Could take them, could leave them. They're not what's drawing you to this knife. Then my next like is the choice of the inlays on the button and the pivot here. I'm not sure why Brian went with G10 on these. I think it would have looked better with carbon fiber. It would have been a little better matching. Make this all carbon fiber there, here, and then make this button thing carbon fiber. I think that would have been a little better of a match. And then my next neutral is this bit of the tang that just kind of sticks below the handle. I'm not really sure why it does this. I feel like the pivot could have been pushed up into the handle a little bit more, and then you wouldn't have this, and the pivot would be a little more centered, and it will look slightly more symmetrical. It's not an issue, it's just kind of weird. And then my last neutral is the whole push button-y mechanism. I'm not in love with it. It really doesn't work that well, honestly. It's just a decent method to open it because it really is fairly easy to fail it. Like, you can kind of just push through it and it doesn't go anywhere. Especially if you're holding the knife in this orientation. Very easy to fail. You really do need a concerted push to get it to work, and it's kind of difficult to actually get a grip because this handle is smooth. So as you're pinching here with these fingers, your thumb wants to slide and move, so you kind of have to get on the edge of the handle like this to get traction, and then push and really take your finger and drive through with a bit of speed. It's definitely doable, and it adds an interesting, I guess, opening mechanism to it, but I don't love it. I think it could be done better. The orientation of this button and the detent strength, and I'm not exactly sure what needs to change, but it's not ideal as it is. So, but just neutral because you don't have to use it. It really doesn't impact you much if you don't want to use it, other than it creates this empty space, which otherwise could be filled, and it would be a little more ergonomic. So, just neutral there. Oh, and then I do have one more neutral, actually, and that's the price. $375 is not cheap for this knife. But I can't get too mad at it. And I can't get too mad at it because of how unique and interesting this knife is, how much research and development and prototypes and testing and communication that I'm sure it took, how this knife poses. I'm sure some unique manufacturing issues and constraints. I see where they're getting $375 with this. It makes sense to me. It's expensive. I don't love paying that. But with a knife this unique and kind of groundbreaking in some of its mechanisms and design, I can understand that price. So don't love it, but don't hate it either. Now, on to dislikes. I really only have one dislike, and that is the color choice for the G10. This kind of neon zombie green color. I just don't know why that Brian went with this color. I have no idea why. I don't know. I just don't know why he did that. I think it would look so much better if it was black or blue to match this, or maybe made out of carbon fiber, and then there would be a little more cohesiveness in the design here. But this bright green really just kind of assaults your eyes, so to speak. I don't love it. I don't like the color choice on the G10 here. I think it could be improved upon, and it's different. It's been different in his later batches. Batch 2 and 3, I think, were both different. So I definitely prefer that, and I think you've seen how that's kind of weird and a little off-putting. All right, and that is everything I have to say about this knife. Very, very interesting, unique knife. I honestly really, really like it, and I really enjoyed carrying it, spending some time with it, getting to play with it, because it is very addicting in its action and the feel and the sounds of it. It's addicting, and it's the kind of thing that you have to hold in your hand and use yourself. And just actuating this lock is an experience unlike any other knife that I've ever used. And even the detent has this unique feel to it that I've never really gotten from another knife. So if you have a chance to get your hands on one of these, whether it's just for a while, maybe a buddy has one, maybe you want to buy one, I would 100% recommend this. I can fully recommend this knife to anyone just because of how interesting and unique it is. If you have $400 laying around and you see one available, pick this knife up. Do it. Get in on batch 3, whatever. It's that interesting and unique. I think everyone should experience this knife. And the only real thing that I don't like, that I actually don't like, is the color choice for this G10. Everything else is just a neutral at worst. And overall, this is an incredible knife, very fun, and I sincerely enjoyed getting to spend some time with it. And then on top of how interesting and unique it is, it has a wonderful cutting blade, incredible cutting geometry. You can see here. Oh, and a perfect sharpening choil, a great sharpening choil. it will be so easy to, absolutely effortless to sharpen this blade. You have so much clearance here, so much clearance from the handle, and this nice straight edge. It would be so easy to sharpen it. And I would love to sharpen this knife, but it's one that we're not sharpening in our pass around group, unfortunately. And I think that is all I have to say for this knife. I'm really excited about this knife. I hope you are too. If you're excited about this knife, maybe you love this, maybe you hate it, maybe you think it's silly or awesome. I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment down below. While you're down there, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe button. If you like knives, sharpening content, all that kind of stuff, I would definitely appreciate it. And with all that said, thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.